Good morning. This meeting is called to order. For the record, the time is 11:01. The day is April 8th, 2025. Commissioner and staff are appearing in Helena, Montana in the Bollinger Room of the Montana Public Service Commission. I am Brad Molnar. I'm the presiding chairman for this meeting. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. For the record, the following commissioners are all present physically. Joining me today are Commissioner Bukacek, Commissioner Fielder, Commissioner Pinocci, and Commissioner Wellborn. Therefore, we have a quorum. The Public Service Commission welcomes any comment on any item that is on today's agenda or any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the Montana Public Service Commission. Are there any public commenters in the room? Seeing none. Are there any public commenters online? Not in front of me. I messed that up. So are they coming up? Renee, you're on. You're first on the list. Can you hear me, Renee?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, this is Renee Pertz, Prairie County. Is that all you need?
Yes. Can you spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, it's P as in Paul, IRTZ.
Thank you. And your comment would be?
I just have concerns about, number one, our district, District 1, is the largest consumers of MDU products. And so my concern is having my elected official, at least unless Gigi gets his way and gets his bill through to make sure that everything's appointed or most are appointed, we still have a public service commissioners that are elected. And Commissioner Pinocci has the largest ratepayers, MDU ratepayers of all the counties. In fact, as I believe there's only one other district that has a few ratepayers. No one in Western Montana of the districts over there have MDU. And so it concerns us greatly. And to have our questions answered and to have a commissioner that will actually travel to different counties in Eastern Montana to answer questions, I find it is extremely offensive to have my elected official chastised. I find it extremely offensive to be personally chastised. I personally spent a fair amount of time working with other counties so that their questions could be answered. We are wondering why MDU is purchasing the most expensive energy out there. Keep in mind, commissioners, we not only pay for these tax incentives and these government subsidies and everything else. This wind is one of the largest footprints over our ag. There is nothing inexpensive about them, nothing. They don't have a clue how to decommission them, which is also extremely expensive. And I find that most expenses are passed on to the ratepayer. It is your responsibility not only to make sure that the stockholders receive reasonable profit, but that the ratepayers have cheap energy, which is available through hydro. Why are we decommissioning hydro and expanding? Why? Because of the money, because of the incentives to build these things. And so we have a lot of questions over here. And to have our elected official come here and answer these questions, the flyer said that not only Commissioner Panochi would be addressing, keyword on my flyer that was approved by my board is addressing. And he and Jackson Newman would be addressing the ratepayers, the enslaved ratepayers. We need to have our questions answered, and that is what was done. And so I have huge problems with the commissioners. MDU has at least 2 companies. We need some transparency. And I don't see that we're getting that. We are getting it from our commissioner. We are not getting that from the board. And so I will leave you with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Renee. Next commenter up is Jeff Pattison of Glasgow. Jeff, are you on?
Hi, thank you, Mr. President. This is Jeff Pattison from Valley County. Pattison spelled Papa Alpha Tango Tango India Sierra Oscar November. Members of the board, I wanted to call. I'm a little bit frustrated about some of the legislation that's going through there, and I would imagine Tanner will probably address some of that today, hopefully. In particular, Senate Bill 561 from Senator Zolikoff. I thought we had that pretty well defeated, and then all of a sudden it comes back up again. Basically, what I think we need to kind of talk about our First Amendment rights, the freedom of speech that we have here. When you have, like my district, I'm in district number 1. Commissioner Panochi is my commissioner. So we have the largest rail system in the state. I would say arguably we have the most gas in the state, certainly the most coal in the state. You know, all these are some of the utilities. Where is this representation going to come from where we're at? I mean, good Lord, it's such a big district to try to cover right now as it is, you know, and people, I think, Mr. President, you mentioned at one of your meetings there that, you know, one of the problems that we had with the committee is that nobody knows what the Public Service Commission does. I know Commissioner Panochi went out, and I was actually with him on several places, Perry, Miles City, Circle. He was in Glendive, trying to tell people what the commissioners do and some of the duties that they have and how they are supposed to handle that. I thought they did a really good job, you know, answered a lot of questions. There was people from the co-ops, electric co-ops there that had questions, and even though that's not under the purview of where they're at, but some of the communication problems that we have too is, you know, in full disclosure, I sit on a board for Nemont Telephone, and we are trying our dead level best to put up towers and put out communication to people all throughout eastern Montana, but it's hard when you can't hardly get cell service or anything else out there to try to find a 911 call, for instance. How do you do that? You know, it's a big district, and I just feel like we are going to be left in the dust even more than what we are, and not by choice. And I'm not saying that we have a deficient or defunct Public Service Commission. I'm just saying the challenges are insurmountable sometimes, but I don't think that we're going to have much say in coming up if we have 2 elected officials. I think one of the members of your commission mentioned to me, Georgia was over $5 million for an elected position. I couldn't afford to run for an elected position at those costs. You know, look at your own dockets. How much you guys spent on your races? Is it anywhere as close to that? I would probably arguably say no. Thankfully, you know, truthfully. So I think we really need to stand not in just strong opposition, but I don't know what else to do. And I would hope that maybe you know, if I could come down there and testify with your permission, on the bill, I probably don't need your permission, but I'd like to be unified with you guys. Hopefully that you stand in strong opposition to that bill. It's a terrible one. And again, I just think part of it comes down to that we owe it to ourselves for, if nothing else, the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom to come up and say, hey, this is wrong, or voice our opinion. And no matter what the situation, if we'll disallow that, we are just killing ourselves in the foot there. And I just, that's basically what I had to say. So I don't know, Daniel, if you had something else or whatever, Mr. President, if you guys are going to talk about this later, I'm sure you probably will. You usually have, but I just wanted you to know that I wanted to be a strong advocate with you guys. If you want to stand opposed to this bill strongly, and that's my comments. I would answer any questions later on if you had one or if you needed to. But thank you for the time, and I appreciate you listening to me. At least that's part of our First Amendment rights is to voice our opinion, I believe, in a respectful manner. That's for sure. So hopefully I did that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Our next public commenter is Linda Harmon from Scobie. Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And I can hear you. So what's your comment, Linda?
I would like to thank Randy for working for our huge district, and that he has a huge responsibility. I thank him that he does vote no to help keep the MDU rates down. And I understand that MDU is basically in our service district, Pinocchi's, and that there's just a little bit not, and that everybody else is voting on those issues. And basically, we're the only one that has MDU in our area. Another topic I wanted to address is the wind turbines. I hear that those some people on the commission really would like to see these put in place. They are awful. They're a blight on our landscape. They kill birds, they kill cattle. Humans' lives are not very good under these wind turbines. They found that out. Wildlife, they ruin the landscape. And we are known for big sky country, and to have these wind turbines in our area is awful, awful. I've been a native here for many, many moons, and I resist being able to see having these wind turbines. Also, they're very heavily subsidized by our taxes. They are the most expensive way of energy production. And we have ample coal, we have ample oil. Let us use what we already have. And now that Trump is in charge, he is allowing us to drill again and pursue energy. Let us pursue that. And also, wind turbines are not environmentally friendly. After a while, those turbines, the wings have to be taken down and replaced. Where do they put them? Understand there's like only 2 places in the nation for a graveyard for these. Is that correct? I haven't found any more information on that, but I think it is absolutely not what we want to hear in Montana. They're ugly and they cause harm. And as I said, they're the most expensive source of energy. And I would just like to, the rate hikes, I thank Randy for looking out for us up here. And we need, as a public service commission, most people don't even know what you do. I need to know more about it myself, but for him being censured and threatened to not have a vote, that is extremely disgusting. He has been doing a great job for us up here. And most of eastern Montana basically is his district is so huge. So I would like him to be able to continue to vote. And I thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Seeing no other public commenters that have pre-registered, do we have any announcements, any changes to the agenda? We don't have any. Approval of minutes.
President, I move approval of the minutes for the week of March 24th, 2025.
Do I hear a second?
A second?
And we have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of approval of those particular minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And those opposed, same sign, none. The ayes have it. Was that for both sessions of minutes?
I just did March 24th as one.
Right. Okay. Back to approval of minutes. We were gone for a week. So we have 2 weeks worth. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Mr. President, I move approval of the minutes for the week of March 31st, 2025.
And do I hear a second?
A second?
And is there any discussion? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed to say, use same sign. The ayes have it, 5-0. So
Mr. President, I have another motion regarding.
certainly.
Mr. President, I move a correction to the minutes of March 4th, 2025. I've distributed a red line to each
Yes.
of you. So the paragraph addressing the appointment of our executive director under this motion would read, Vice President Fielder moved the commission appoint Alana Lake to the position of executive director in accordance with the screening and selection panel's recommendation and mutually agreed terms of engagement as stated in the offer letter.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept those amendments?
We need a second, and then I'll explain. A second.
We have a second. I would like to have an explanation at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just to get our minutes aligned with the actual motion that was made and was recorded in the work session request. Since this is an engagement of a staff member, I think it's important that the record be clear on the terms of engagement.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 And those opposed, 5-0, the ayes have it. So there was on the work session, we have strategic planning. Is any staff going to present this to us? Okay, thank you.
Mr. President and members, the ACT team had addressed this issue during its management meetings, and you may recall the president appointed me to chair this strategic planning for the agency. That's a continuation of a project I'd chaired under the last president. As a discussion at our ACT meeting and some work I had initially started to do on the updates to the strategic plan, staff made the recommendation to the commission that we simply, for now, extend the date of the strategic planning period through 2025 so that we'll continue to operate under the plan the commission previously adopted. Much of the plan has been implemented, but not all of it has. And by extending the date through 2025, it allows us to sync up our strategic planning updates with the other reporting that we'll be doing next year, preparing for the ensuing legislative session. So it's no changes to the plan are recommended at this point, just extending the date that's on the plan wherever it appears. the 2024 would be replaced with 2025. So I guess if there's any discussion, we can discuss, and then I'll make a motion, Mr. President.
Is
Or I
there,
have to do the motion first, if
Yeah.
you like.
would you like to make a motion?
Okay, Mr. President, I move that the dates of the 2021 through 2024 strategic plan be modified to extend the planning period through the end of 2025.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
There being a second, is there any discussion?
Appreciate staff putting the copy of the plan in our notebooks. You should have all have access to it. I think it's on our website as well, but I think the agency's done a lot of good work under this plan, and we have a few more items to check off, and we can continue to work on that. And then when it's time to revisit updating the plan, we can start kind of a review of what we've accomplished and then where the commission wants to go next.
Any further discussion on this at all? Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 5-0. Next, we have, I believe, legislative updates. This will be a discussion on bills relevant to the PSC mission, statutory authority, administrative process, and general agency concerns. Trevor.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Commission. Today I will be giving the updates in regard to the legislature. So we'll start with previous action that we've seen prior to this week. House Bill 45. That's the bill generally revising telecommunications regulation laws. That passed out of Senate Energy on Friday. It should receive its final floor vote soon, not yet on the schedule. And if you'll remember, that's our final bill of the session. House Bill 490, revised civil liability laws. That bill passed out of the Senate Judiciary Monday and awaits its final floor votes, again, not yet scheduled. The bill was amended to include the Montana DNRC and the Department of Emergency Services. They are now required to send the PSC comments and analysis for a wildlife mitigation plan specifically. Moving on to House Bill 911, that bill is to revise the meaning of the term public utility. That bill amends the definition of the public utility to allow utilities to operate unregulated subsidiaries for the purpose of providing power to large customers. That bill passed second reading on the House floor Monday, 68-40. It awaits final floor vote on Tuesday. Senate Bill 301. This bill generally revises the utility lines and facilities laws. That provides a certificate of public necessity for transmission projects. We are required to analyze the project and decide if there's a public need. This bill was heard in House Energy on Friday, April 4th, and awaits executive action. Senate Bill 561. This bill is to revise the Public Service Commission membership. That passed the Senate on a 34-14 vote on April 5th. Moving on to upcoming hearings, House Bill 2, that's the General Appropriations Act. House Bill 2 is scheduled for hearings today and tomorrow. Mr. Graff here will be representing the PSC as there's questions on that bill. And Senate Bill 561, again, to revise the Public Service Commission membership. That bill is scheduled for hearing on Wednesday, April 9th at 8 a.m. in the Senate State Administration, room 455. And at this time, we would recommend that the commission discuss their position on this particular bill, if any, and collaborate on who will represent the commission with the decided upon position. Thank you.
What is that bill number again?
That is Senate Bill 561.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 561?
I haven't, Mr. President, I haven't seen a copy of the bill. Can we get a summary of it?
I'll refer that to Trevor.
Mr. President, Commissioners, this is the appointment bill. The only significant difference between the second version in the appointment bill and the first version is that it now includes a $100 filing fee with the Commissioner of Political Practices in order to verify the qualifications of candidates, and it relaxed the qualifications of candidates from the first version. Now you simply need experience in the energy field, the finance field, or law to qualify as a commission candidate. Yep. So reminder, this bill shifts the commission makeup from 5 elected commissioners to 3 appointed commissioners and 2 elected commissioners. Much like the first one, the 2 elected commissioners are from the Eastern and Western congressional districts.
Mr. President, and if I may ask a question, Trevor, appointed by, who would the commissioners be appointed by?
The governor.
Certainly not to debate, but I'm not clear. My take on it was, so far as qualifications go, it was much like the other, even though there were lesser qualifications, that they recommended those, but it was not an exhaustive list. It was basically, but not limited to. So just like the first one, almost anybody the governor picked could be nominated and confirmed.
Mr. Chair, that's substantively correct. I mean, if you can prove that you had experience with energy at all, finance at all, or the legal field at all, you would be qualified under this. So it's pretty big and broad now.
So if I declared bankruptcy and represented myself, I'd be in.
Mr. Chair, if you could prove energy experience, which you have, yeah.
Okay. I think I disagree with that a little bit when they say, but but not limited to, it opens it up a lot. Secondly, one of the things I noticed that I thought was substantively different is the first one said that the political parties were not could not get involved. And this one doesn't mention political parties at all. So they can be heavily involved in this process, including donations, whatever they wanted to do. So one of the things that on this bill, the other one doesn't make any difference, that I think people need to throw in, is that if you have one appointed person who is closely aligned with utilities, and we are in a legal tangle with utilities, they are sitting in on our discussions on legal action. In a rate case, they can easily pass on what the concerns are, the discussions are, everything. It's a very, very heavy lift to say that either one of those are a good outcome for the people of Montana. I intend to make that point tomorrow. Is there any other discussion on Senate Bill 561?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the public commenters this morning expressed well some of our concerns about keeping the Public Service Commission makeup in the hands of the electorate. I have a few other comments. As outlined in our policies, whether or not the PSC will testify before a committee as a representative of this agency must be agreed upon by a quorum of commissioners. And the content presented should also be discussed and agreed upon prior to testimony that officially represents the commission. I request the language brought forth for statements made by the commission, such as you said you were planning on testifying tomorrow, to the legislature be reviewed by legal staff, the executive director, and external affairs coordinator. This request includes SB 561 and future legislation on which the commission takes an official stance. Otherwise, the language, both substance and sentiment brought forth to the committees, cannot be considered as accurately representing us on the PSC.
That would be a fairly unique position to take. Being a legislative veteran along with 3 others, the questions that will come up are unknown. To say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that unless I go back and get permission is not going to fly. If we're going to take a position of proponent or opponent or informational, is based on what's in the bill and what comes up as concerns that bill. And I think that we are more than qualified to handle that without double checking with anybody.
It's not a matter of double checking with everyone, but if someone is going to be testifying and is supposed to represent us, it needs to have some semblance of something that we have agreed upon, at least in opening statements.
Well, that may be. I think the opening statement would be that we support this legislation, we oppose this legislation, or we are informational. After that, we talk about exactly what's in the bill, and we answer any questions that come up. I don't know how to change that for this one bill, and I don't know why we would change it for just one bill.
Mr. President, thank you. I think the protocol that Commissioner Bukacek is citing there relates to ensuring that whoever our spokesperson is really representing the views of the commission as a whole and not just an individual. And it's tough because, you know, we all have our opinions, whether it's staff or commissioners, but the idea was to establish a team approach to how the agency would be represented and to try to do it in a way that was tactful and hopefully effective. And there's a separation between that approach and an individual going in and approaching it just on their own. I understand what you're saying. You know, you get put on the spot, I get put on the spot and asked to answer questions, and then you're going to have, you know, the person will just have to do their best, but should always remember that there is a whole commission that's being represented here and whole agency, as a matter of fact, and not just any individual. So it's important to keep that in mind. I appreciate Commissioner Bukacek bringing that up. What I would like, Mr. President, at this point is I'm a little bit I can't remember where we're at with all of these bills. Could we have staff just give us a rundown of what we suppose, what we're supporting, what we're opposing, and who our spokesperson is on the various pieces that are listed here in your update? That'd be all right, Mr. President?
Of course.
Mr. President, Commissioners, HB 45, obviously we support. I'm the spokesperson. HB 490, we have gone to informational after getting the amendments in the first house. I'm the spokesman. HB 911 came up in the course of last week. We don't particularly have a position, but as you can see, they're moving so fast that it's already through onto its third reading vote on the House floor. So when that comes around in the Senate, we'll need to take a position on that. SB 301, we were informational. After getting amendments, it was reviewed last week. One amendment was not included. So that bill reverted to opposition. Senate Bill 561, you voted to oppose the first version. The second version came up and went through the first house in the span of about 36 hours last week. So officially, you don't have a position on SB 561, but we did have an out of cycle last week, and the commission president used his discretion to be in opposition to that in the first house. And then before we wrap this up, I do want to make one point on HB2 when we get there, just because it happened this morning. So when we get to it, just for the record.
I think that on 561, we had an out of cycle. We had 3, and we voted to oppose.
Yeah, that's correct.
President?
Yes.
I know at least one commissioner, myself, was not necessarily happy about how it was presented last week, so I did vote for that to go forth. I think it's important in our PSC testimony with this bill in particular, 561, that we humbly accept that some commissioner behavior has led to some of the concerns that caused this bill to arise. And one thing that I think is probably even more important is how much we have improved, through one-on-one mentoring and heightened teaching sessions. Public service commissioners have the capacity now to apply rigorous application of consistent standards of rulemaking, rate making, and everything else that we do. The standard creates the balance between the needs of the ratepayers and the utility companies to invest what they need in order to keep the lights on and the heat on at the best possible price. I'm hopeful that this enhanced training will remove the legitimate concerns that led to Senate Bill 561 being brought forward.
Thank you for that. I don't know that I agree that any one thing brought forward 363, 561, the other one that was dropped. I think there's a lot more at play here than that. However, along with what you said, this morning I got a phone call from somebody that appears here quite often and before the legislature on power issues, not necessarily supported totally with everything we do. And I was told that we are the best commission that she's seen, that person has seen in a long time. So I think we not only are better, I think we're getting better, and I thank you for that admonition.
So where are we at, Mr. President? Is there any action that's needed on any of these items today? Staff, do you need any direction or clarification on anything?
Well, 561 is up tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And who's our spokesperson?
Currently, Mr. President, Vice President Fielder, Mr. Molnar is the spokesperson on 561.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President, I do want to run you through HB2 real quick, because like everything else in the legislature right now, they're moving fast. HB2 was voted out of the House yesterday and heard in Senate Finance and Claims this morning. They took a novel approach to hearing House Bill 2 and Senate Finance and Claims this go. They opened it up as one bill. They told agencies to essentially not testify unless you're asked questions, because they set forth a process in which they were working with the governor's budget director to collect the changes that agencies want, and they have one clearinghouse and one big document of those changes. As I've mentioned before, we've been working with them, so those changes are in that document. But today, essentially, they opened the hearing up, had proponents and opponents from the interest groups and contract lobbyists, but the agencies didn't speak. So that's wrapped up and done. The hearing for HB2 is done in the Senate. They'll likely take exec this week, and the budget will likely be on the Senate floor in the week following the 14th, the week of the 14th.
And Mr. President, Trevor, so House Bill 2, as it relates to our agency, currently does have 2 additional railroad inspector FTE in it, correct?
Yes, Mr. President, Vice President Fielder, the House on Friday last week put forward a floor amendment to include 2 rail track inspectors. That passed with 69 votes. So it's in the budget. There was no discussion of it today. It appears that that's going to stick in the budget. No one has voiced real concern in taking those back out. The real push with OBPP right now is to emphasize the one thing that we did not get in our budget package out of the House that is probably the thing we need, is that docs processing position. And like I say, they've taken a bit novel process this go. So all of those amendments are being collected and brought forward by the governor's office in the Senate.
Okay, and Mr. President Trevor, are you working with the governor's office closely? Do you know, are you able to see what's coming in terms of what their recommendations are that affect our agency, or is it going to be handled in the, in the dark somewhere?
So essentially the level of collaboration we've had with them is I reached out to them to kind of see what this process was going to be. And they wanted to include us in the process. So we laid out the need for that position. They also proactively asked about whether we were still after the rail inspectors after the HB 103 discussion or not. At the time, I did mention to them that I think, we had sort of given up on the thought that those were going to come our way, and we were focused on the docks processing position. And they said they were going to try for both. So now the railroad stuff is back, and we're waiting to see what happens with the docks processing position.
Okay, well, it's nice to have one thing to focus on now with our
Yeah.
budget. So great work. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussions on the legislative agenda?
Mr. President,
Yes,
would it be within Robert's rules for me to make a motion?
it's always within Robert's rules for you to make a motion.
Thank you, sir. I make a motion that the language brought forth for opening statements made by the commission to the legislature be reviewed by legal staff, the executive director, and external affairs coordinator.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Hearing none. The motion has failed. So the next business meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 15th of April, 2025. Seeing no further business to come before this commission, for the record, time is 11:42 a.m. on these, and the date is the 7th of April, 2025. This meeting
well,
is,
Just a reminder on our calendar, we have a training at 2 p.m.
ooh,
this
ooh.
afternoon, and there may very well be a quorum. Hopefully all the commissioners will be present for that since it's a specific training for us.
I don't think we need to repeat that, but thank you. So yes, there'll be a meeting, or a training today at 2 o'clock and in this room. So, so this meeting is adjourned.